It's a scary time in fantasy, and Jason, no, it's not just because it's Halloween week. There's a lot of frightening things going on, and we're going to be breaking them all down. The Fantasy GOAT starts right now.
This is the Fantasy GOAT, sponsored by Casablanca Resort and Casino, like Vegas used to be.
Welcome, everybody, to the Fantasy GOAT. I'm Mike Davis. That's Jason Feinberg. It's Halloween week. We're happy you're back from New Orleans. How was your trip?
It was good. I saw the show went well. I was glad I was able to contribute. And my GOAT lineup, Cajun style, was able to beat you this time around.
I know. We're going to be reflecting on that in a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm scared.
Yeah, and I have a scary lineup just for Halloween to go up against you.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to be checking out what's going on with that. But let's kick off with livestock. The big thing that we got to break down right now, Jason, actually very interesting. No teams are on bye this week in Week 8. So kind of unique. That means everybody's going to really be at full strength. In the past few weeks, you're streaming quarterbacks, running backs, every position, tight ends, defense, kicker. So now to have full strength, you're really going to be able to have an adequate way to really evaluate your lineup.
I have one league where we have so many teams playing, and I'm so used to the bye weeks that I have Christian Kirk and Devonta Smith on the bench.
Wow.
That's how, when you have your whole roster to choose from, it's nice.
Yeah, it's a good thing, and I think as we're hitting into more the mid-season form, it's good to see how your teams are shaping up. Now, here was something that was very frustrating for a lot of Bijan Robinson managers this week. Bijan Robinson played one snap.
Yeah.
He had 11 snaps, or one carry, I should say, rather. And he was out because, guess what, Jason? Headaches.
Yeah.
Do you imagine sitting for a headache?
I've never really heard of that. And I kept looking over at that TV screen because I watch all the games, so mostly I don't have volume. And I kept looking, I'm like, where's number 7? Where's number 7? And I see Cordero Patterson in there who's doing nothing. And I'm getting so frustrated. And if you had him, you probably lost your week.
It's a shame. It's something where I think it's a Gen Z thing. This is not even millennial.
Yeah, right.
Gen Zers, you sit because you have a headache. And the worst part is, if you're really a Gen Zer, you even admit that you're sitting because you have a headache.
I can understand if he got into the Halloween candy early and had a tummy ache, but not a headache. Come on.
The headache is not the way to go. No. So Atlanta fails to disclose that, screwing up a lot of fantasy managers in the process. He got about 0.3 points, so it was a bust for a lot of people. Lastly, though, we do have to talk about this Taylor Swift effect that's going on with Travis Kelce. I mean, he busted out last week, 12 catches, 179 yards, a touchdown, 29 total fantasy points. And here's the Taylor Swift effect for you in full disclosure. Here we go. Ready?
Yeah.
When Taylor Swift is in attendance, Travis Kelce has 99 yards per game on average. When she's not in attendance, 46.5. So it's a stark difference. Would you play better if your girlfriend was Taylor Swift and she was in the stands?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd be pretty proud of her for coming up with a better celebration dance than some of the guys in the end zone. She had with Mahomes' wife.
She was doing Brittany Mahomes. She was doing the chest bump.
Yeah.
She's having a lot of fun. Even Jackson Mahomes is getting in the mix.
Yeah.
So he's trying to get some FaceTime. Producer James Edward Barrickman, what's your stance on this whole thing? Because initially I think you weren't so hot on the Swift effect, but now you're feeling a little differently.
Yeah, so I really wanted to sit here and tell you guys that Travis Kelce doesn't need Taylor Swift to produce. But as you mentioned, the stats back it up. Look at the games that she was at. Versus Chicago, 7 catches, 69 yards, touchdown. At New York, 6 catches, 60 yards. Versus Denver, 9 catches, 124 yards. Versus LA, 12 catches, 179 yards, touchdown. And those averages are pretty significantly higher than his career averages since Mahomes has become the starter, which is 6.5 catches and 81 yards. So I don't know if Mahomes is just trying to be a good wingman and he's targeting Kelce when she's at these games. But of course, it's a small sample size, and we'll see if it holds up going forward the rest of the season.
Yeah, now, even my friend Katie was wearing a sweatshirt, and it had the logo, right? Yeah. The logo, and it said Taylor's version.
Oh,
yeah, so like all of her songs.
That's all her songs.
Yeah.
So she does the Taylor's version album. I mean, and that's with Halloween week. There's going to be a lot of Swift and Kelce outfits out there. I mean, listen, producer James Edward Barrickman, I think that's really good stats. The other thing is Mahomes has nobody to throw to. This is the first.
True.
Just in the 1 year where he's got like one guy to throw to. So it's interesting. Anyway, let's head into our favorite segment right now. We got our hole-in-one player of the week by Casablanca Resort and Casino. So Lamar Jackson did have an MVP-type performance, 357 yards throwing, 3 TDs, another touchdown on the ground, and 33.88 fantasy points against a really tough Detroit team.
I gotta say, I'm bummed out. I had him on my bench because I had Tua, and Tua's been playing really well, but it turned out I made the wrong decision on that week.
I did the same thing in a league myself, and here's what's interesting. I mean, he's going up against Arizona this week, so a likelihood he could do this again is definitely there, but he's really only QB4 through these first 7 weeks. He's still behind Josh Allen, Mahomes, and Jalen Hurts. Guys, coming up after a short break, guess what? We got GOAT Vision. We're getting into our QBs, our RBs. You don't want to miss it. That's coming up after a short break.
Before we head to break, in Week 8 of 2005, which Denver quarterback threw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns in a win versus Philadelphia? He totaled 30.6 fantasy points and finished as the week's QB1. The answer after the break. Welcome back. Before the break, we asked you which Denver quarterback threw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns in a win versus Philly. He totaled 30.6 fantasy points and finished as the week's QB1. The answer? Quarterback Jake Plummer, who played for Denver from 2003 to 2006.
All right, welcome back, kids, to the Fantasy GOAT. So let's jump into GOAT Vision. Let's start with QBs. So, Jason, my dude, he came back down to earth, okay? C.J. Stroud in Houston. I mean, he was on bye last week.
Right.
Prior to that, the last game before the bye, he threw his first interception. So he's had 9 touchdown passes and only 1 interception so far. Came back down to earth, but this week I love him because it's really a rookie QB showdown as he goes to face 0-6 Carolina against Bryce Young. So, Bryce Young being the top pick, CJ the second overall pick, I think there's going to be an added layer of competitiveness there, and he's already been playing really strong. So I love CJ this week. Tell me, for you, who are you loving?
I'm going to mention him. I don't know how much he's got because I'm talking Tyrod Taylor. What a game.
Yeah.
He won it for New York. Darren Waller got involved.
Yeah.
Some of the wide receivers that we haven't seen got involved, like Jalen Hyatt.
Right.
And he added some excitement to the team, but now that Danny Dimes is healthy, I don't know. But I wanted to at least give him some props before we may not see him again.
He got Waller involved, and Jalen, the rookie from Tennessee, he looked good. You know?
Yeah. So now, who don't you like?
So who I don't love is, I hate to say this, but it's the reigning comeback player of the year in Geno Smith. I'm a Geno guy, but he's just really not playing so well. I mean, he had poor performances against New York, Cincinnati, and Arizona. He's thrown in those past 3 games the same amount of interceptions as touchdowns. So he doesn't, look like he's playing with that same level of confidence. And of course, Seattle always likes to run the ball, but he's just not playing at that high level. And I'm scared because this week he really is facing a tough team in Cleveland who might have the best defense in the league. So they get to the quarterback. They have a good secondary. They got Denzel Ward there, and DK may not even be playing. So it's not a good week to play Geno Smith.
If you look up the word regression in the dictionary, it says Geno Smith.
Exactly.
Right? That's exactly what's going on with him. And for me, it's, again, a guy that goes up and down a little too much for me is Sam Howell with Washington. He just gets sacked way too much. In fact, now he's like in a race with David Carr, Derek Carr's brother. Remember David Carr with Houston? He got sacked out of the league. That's how many times he got sacked. Well, Sam Howell better be careful.
Wow, very interesting. Yeah, because he's having some positive weeks, some negative weeks, but it's an interesting thing. Now, kick us off, Jason, with running backs.
Yeah, so last week I went to New Orleans and I saw him for myself, Alvin Kamara, who, I think he's played 4 games now, and he's touched the ball more than 100 times.
Wow.
And so it's volume, but he's also doing a lot with the ball as well. So, I mean, even with Derek Carr, who is kind of checked down Charlie anyway,
Yeah.
he's golden.
Yeah,
I mean,
especially in PPR leagues.
Yeah. Unfortunately for New Orleans, they lost that game.
Right.
But I'll talk about that in my tight ends.
Okay, yeah, we'll get into that. And real quickly, who did you not like running back-wise for Week 8?
You know, same thing. He gets the volume, but he's not doing enough with it, and that is Josh Jacobs from right here in Las Vegas. I still think that he's going to come around. For this week, he's on the down on my guys not liking.
Okay, interesting stuff. Okay, for me, guys, running back-wise, I mean, listen, now is the time to celebrate the Kareem Hunt party.
Yeah.
Jerome Ford, he's got an ankle injury. He's going to be out now. I mean, I love this. Kareem Hunt, 3 goal line carries. He got in the end zone twice, Jason. So that's big stuff. I like him this week. I know it's a tough situation going against a tougher Seattle D, but he's going to get the volume. And, you know, Kareem Hunt is...
And he's a veteran.
He's a veteran,
Yeah.
and he's getting back into that old form. He scored 15 points last week, so I like him. The guy I'm really down on, and you know, it's tough because he does get into the end zone a lot, and I have him in a couple leagues. Brian Robinson Jr., he's in such a running back by committee. I thought it was just worrying about Brian and Antonio Gibson. Now there's a whole new guy in the mix.
Yep.
Chris Rodriguez Jr., the rookie out of Kentucky, he led the team in rushing yards last week.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't know what's going on
That
there.
was one of those, wait, who's this?
Exactly.
Moments. Yeah.
So if he doesn't get in the end zone, Robinson, it's hard to play him, you know. But if you need a streamer, it's not a bad thing. But on a week where everybody's on bye and nobody's on bye, it's not a good play.
Not a good week for the Robinsons. You know, in fact, Mrs. Robinson would be more fun to watch at this point.
Believe me, we all love Mrs. Robinson. Guys, coming up after a short break, we're graduating. You see what I did there?
I like that. That was good.
We're graduating to wide receivers and tight ends. A lot of excitement coming up after a short break. Stick around, kids.
Before we take another timeout, in Week 8 of 2006, which Houston tight end broke out for 9 catches, 99 yards, and 2 touchdowns? He scored 26.4 fantasy points and finished as the week's tight end 1. The answer after the break. Welcome back. Before the break, we asked you which Houston tight end broke out for 9 catches, 99 yards, and 2 touchdowns in Week 8 of 2006. He scored 26.4 fantasy points and finished as the week's tight end 1. The answer, tight end Owen Daniels, who played for Houston from 2006 to 2013.
Welcome back, kids. Okay, so I'm going to kick out GOAT Vision with wide receivers. Now, here we go. A.J. Brown, my man crush. I love this dude in Philadelphia. He's been killing it. I mean, this guy, all I have to say, he has 809 yards through 7 games. That's more total yards than Tennessee wide receivers combined. All of them. They have 789. And this guy is just week in, week out going nuts. He has 125 or plus yards in 5 consecutive games. The only other player to do that, Jason, Megatron, Calvin Johnson. So he is going crazy, and he's going against Washington, who he played in Week 4, and he busted out against them. He had, 9 catches, 175 yards, and 2 TDs in Week 4. So they're giving up an average of 33 points per game to the top target. So if there's a week to be excited about A.J. Brown, which is pretty much every week, it's also this week.
I don't know if he's BFFs with one of their running backs on the same team, but you were talking about Travis Kelce and the Swift effect.
Right.
Maybe it's the same thing happening in Philadelphia where he just loves DeAndre Swift, and he also is motivated and has all those yards as well.
There is
the
maybe
Swift effect.
The Swift effect happening in both places. I also just want to say, the guy I'm not feeling so much, DK Metcalf. I love DK Metcalf, but DK just, he didn't play last week. He's got the hip and the rib injury. I don't want to play him if he's not going to be a full go. And if even he's playing and he's getting limited snaps, it's not worth it. They got too many guys that are coming up and playing well, especially guys like Jackson Smith and Jigba. So it just doesn't make sense for me, especially against a tough Cleveland defense.
Yeah, maybe sit him out one more week and rest. Okay, for me, I've done this before. I forgot with who, but this time, who I love is also who I hate, and that is Cooper Kupp. Anybody can steal my idea and my joke that Cooper Kupp is like a convenience store, always open.
Yeah.
But the problem is he is still always open, but I feel like the coffee got cold, a couple times. He had I think his first 2 out of 3 catches were drops. That was weird. He was
Right.
open, too.
And he never does that.
No, he never does that, and because of it, it looked like it was a Puka Nacua game, which is also good to see because I have Nacua in more leagues than I have Cooper Kupp,
Right.
so that's kind of nice. But yeah, I got to put Cooper Kupp in my love and hate because I can't never hate him.
No,
Yeah.
you got to love Cooper Kupp. All right, let's jump in to tight ends now. So, Jason, you got to see my guy who I'm loving, Taysom Hill. I mean, what a sneaky play this guy is. He scored a touchdown on the ground. He set his career high in actually routes last week with 42. With Juwan Johnson out, this guy is a legit tight end starter, a legitimate guy you want to have in your lineup. What did he look like in person? Somebody who's such a unique, pocket knife kind of jack of all trades.
He really is, and it was exciting to see him in person because every time he came onto the field, everyone got excited. They're like, all right, something good is going to happen. And yeah, it was weird to see him kind of playing more of a position that he's supposed to be as a tight end. And yeah, he came through. And it's funny because I'm going to start with the guy that I don't like because it was in the same game.
Yeah.
And he's also a tight end. And the strange thing is Derek Carr, his go-to guy back when Darren Waller got injured on Las Vegas was Foster Moreau. And so, I mean, you would think of anybody that is on New Orleans that Carr would have a chemistry with, it'd be Foster Moreau. And boy, he choked on that.
That was a big miss. Who do you like though?
Yeah, I like David Njoku with Cleveland only because the volume is starting to go up. Now I don't know what's going to happen when Deshaun Watson comes back, but I'm seeing more and more looks going his way. And I don't have him in any of the leagues, but maybe as a streamer, I would pick him up because I think he can at least get me 5 catches.
He's talented. It's just about the volume with him.
With the
and
volume.
There's so many guys there, especially Cooper. But yeah, I do like Njoku a lot, and we're happy he's doing better with the burns on that face.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a scary situation. Guys, coming up in the next break, we got a great guy. We got Dr. Nithin Natwa, our new favorite guy. He's going to be telling us some interesting insight, especially something with Jalen Hurts that I think a lot of people are going to love. We got that coming up right after the break. All right, this is a great time in the show. So Dr. Nithin Natwa, sports physician, is actually joining us right now. So Dr. Natwa, let's kick it off with this. What's going on with Deshaun Watson?
So Deshaun Watson has an injury of that subscapularis muscle, which is actually the biggest rotator cuff muscle. It's not something he should be playing through because especially with a quarterback, it's involved in that cross-body throwing motion or that adduction of the rotator cuff. It takes about 4 to 6 weeks to heal from, and he's about 4.5 weeks out from that initial injury. So I think it's a good idea for him to sit out this week, which it sounds like he's going to, and also possibly sit out the next week. So that way he can return at the top of his form without a risk of aggravating that shoulder further.
All right, and how about Deebo Samuel?
So Deebo, it sounds like they initially thought it was just a shoulder strain. They ended up getting an x-ray, which was negative. They got an MRI, which also didn't show anything significant, but he was having some persistent shoulder pain. So they ended up getting a CT scan. And the thing about a CT scan is it's the most accurate study for both. So they picked up a subtle fracture, which was not displaced or not shifted out of place. The good thing about that is that fractures typically take about 4 to 6 weeks to recover from. But in a fracture that's this mild that it didn't even show up on most studies, he should be able to recover, return as soon as they see some bone healing on that x-ray. They'll see a little bit of cloudiness on the imaging, and they'll be able to send him back right after that. And that should be around week 10, week 11. And that's likely why they didn't want to put him on IR because they don't count the bye week in the IR span. So
Gotcha.
He should be playing perfectly fine.
Okay, and lastly, Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's wearing this brace. Tell us what's going on with Jalen Hurts.
I'm not super concerned about it. There was one play out there where it looked like he might have tweaked that MCL or that ligament on the inside part of the knee. He's been wearing a brace on his knee as well, too. But I think that has a lot to do with that tush push that they're doing. If you look carefully at every offensive lineman that plays in the NFL, they all have knee braces on both their knees. And that's not because they're super injured all the time. It's because they're trying to prevent themselves from getting an MCL sprain pretty much. And I think with how frequently they're using the tush push, which requires a lot of the same impact that these O-linemen are taking, they just want to be precautionary with Jalen Hurts. It's an injury that he can definitely play through, and I don't think it's going to affect him season long. And it's pretty straightforward in that regard.
Wow. Okay, I love that. Great stuff from Dr. Nithin Natwa. Make sure you check him out at Fantasy Docs on TikTok and Instagram. Thank you so much for joining us, Doctor.
This was fun.
After a short break, we're going to be talking GOAT lineup. Stick around. Jason, he's
scary.
beating my butt, and it's scary. Well, it's not only just a spooky time because it's Halloween, it's a spooky time if you're me because, yes, my momentum has shifted. I'm dwindling. Jason, GOAT lineup, rulebook, you and I, head-to-head, can't use the same player twice. I was doing pretty well all season long, and now I lost. It's 3-4 me, 4-3 you. You're at the top of the standings. I scored 35 points last week, Jason. Nothing to write home about. You beat me, and you had A.J. Brown.
Yeah, that was the big difference is A.J. Brown had 24.7 points, and Josh Allen had a pretty good game, even though it looked super ugly if you're watching the game itself. So, yeah, that's how I got you. And now I'm up 4-3. So I know you have your lineup. Because I'm up 4-3,
Yeah.
I'm going with entertainment value more than I am points
Tell
value.
us about this.
You ready for this?
Yeah.
It's my Halloween special.
Oh, the Halloween special.
First of all, start with quarterback. Lamar, Thriller, Michael Jackson. I just threw that in because of Thriller. But also he plays for a scary bird, okay? Right? Then, the most Halloween name ever as my running back for Houston, Damian Pierce, right? Okay? Then you have, of course, this one's easy, wide receiver, Scary Terry. In fact, I hope he has a good game because he knows his name is Scary Terry.
Probably will.
And then tight end, Trey McBride of Chucky.
I love that. That is a very clever one. I wasn't that clever this week because I'm just down in the dumps and I need the win. There's no entertainment value. I'm coming for you, Jason. Pulling out all the stops. C.J. Stroud, I'm using him. I'm using Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen with the Bolts and Darren Waller. So I'm coming for you. Let's hope we get to 500. Everybody enjoy Halloween. I like that entertainment value, Jason.
Thank you. Thank you. Bride of Chucky.
We'll see you guys. Candy if I get to 500. That's all I know.